Imagine waking up on a crisp fall morning only to find that a rogue HOA president has just towed your $300,000 combined. Oh, and did I mention the land she's meddling with is leased by the state? Stay tuned because you're about to hear the wildest story of the harvest season. It all started on a crisp autumn morning, the kind that makes you feel like every day is a fresh start and every drop of dew tells a story. I woke up at dawn, got dressed in my worn flannel and faded boots, and headed out to my fields. For nearly a decade, I've lived on the fringes of a suburban HOA, an area where manicured lawns and weekend barbecues create the backdrop to a peaceful neighborhood. But mine was no ordinary plot. My farmland wrapped around their tidy community like an old friend who refused to be ignored. And on that particular harvest season, the landscape was about to change forever. I'm a farmer who takes pride in my work, and nothing compares to the hum of a $300,000 combine as it tears through 160 acres of state-leased cropland. This land wasn't just mine, it was part of a strategic contract with the state to ensure our agricultural future. But as I embarked on another harvest, humming to some old Johnny Cash tunes with the windows cracked open, I had no idea that my routine morning would soon turn into a wild, almost absurd battle for my livelihood. It began with a familiar face from the HOA, a woman everyone in town had come to know as Karen. Now, Karen was the recently elected president of the HOA, a title that seemed to inflate her sense of responsibility overnight. At first, her passion was endearing. She organized community events and even hand-delivered birthday cards. But that enthusiasm quickly mutated into an overzealous desire to enforce some rather peculiar notions of beauty and order in our neighborhood. To Karen, my tractor wasn't just a piece of farm equipment, it was a glaring eyesore parked along her precious property line, a violation of what she called visual peace. For months, I had politely explained that my combine, despite its imposing $300,000 price tag, was operating on land leased from the state, a fact that kept it outside the jurisdiction of local HOA rules. I even invited her out to show her the boundaries, the legal maps, and the contracts that explained every detail. But Karen, intoxicated by her newfound power, refused to see reason. She believed that her clipboard and her relentless pursuit of perfection gave her the authority to dictate not just our neighborhood's aesthetics, but the very nature of our day-to-day operations. Things came to a head on the second day of the harvest. I pulled my combine to a stop on the field's edge to check on a few irrigation lines, only to find Karen standing there, arms crossed, eyes blazing with that unmistakable look. Without a word, she whipped out her phone and made a call. Moments later, I noticed a tow truck pulling up on the gravel path. I assumed, as one does in these situations, that perhaps it was here to perform a routine check or a scheduled inspection by the state. After all, my contract was clear. But instead of a government official, I saw the tow truck driver maneuvering his equipment around my parked combine. When I got closer, I saw it, a small, handwritten note taped to the side of my barn that simply said, "Abandoned equipment, removed for community safety." I couldn't believe my eyes. In that moment, it hit me like a ton of hay bales. Karen, in her relentless quest for pristine suburban order, had convinced a local tow service to haul off my combine. And I wasn't talking about just any machine. This was equipment under a binding state lease, a critical part of a multi-million-dollar agricultural operation. Not only did her actions border on criminal tampering, but they also disrupted a federally overseen harvest schedule. Within hours, I found myself at the center of a whirlwind that I couldn't have foreseen. State inspectors, a sheriff's deputy, and a transportation compliance officer arrived at my field, all with one question burning on their lips. "Ma'am, can you explain why you instructed a tow company to remove state-contracted equipment from an active agricultural site?" Karen stood there like a deer caught in headlights, her usual poise shattered in a matter of seconds. The inspector's calm demeanor only deepened the irony. He gently explained that visual range is not equivalent to legal jurisdiction, an important lesson that Karen was learning, albeit too late. As the day wore on, I couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of it all. Here I was, a simple farmer trying to harvest a crop that fed into a state initiative on emergency food production, and Karen, with her misplaced sense of order, had turned my day into a federal incident. And the evidence was undeniable. I had forgotten about the combine's dashcam, a little device that silently recorded every moment of our confrontation. Later, when that footage was reviewed, it wasn't just clear proof of Karen's involvement, it was the smoking gun that sealed her fate. In the following days, what began as a simple neighborhood dispute snowballed into a legal and social spectacle. Karen, still reeling from the shock of the incident, tried to pivot by filing a lawsuit against me. Her attorney, as it turned out, hadn't done their homework. When they entered the courthouse, the case was immediately flagged for a judge with an extensive background in infrastructure and zoning, a judge I happened to know from previous land use reform tasks. The judge's expertise, combined with the mountain of evidence and the dashcam footage, left Karen's case in tatters almost before it even began. In a dramatic twist, her lawyer ended up walking out of the courthouse in frustration, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions alone. But the drama didn't end there. The local HOA, which once looked to Karen for leadership, soon found themselves embroiled in scandal. Rumors of financial mismanagement, misuse of HOA funds, and internal power struggles began to circulate. A series of meetings were held, emails were exchanged, and soon enough, a vote was taken. Karen was removed as HOA president, her once coveted position replaced by interim leadership that promised to restore order and transparency. In a way, the neighborhood was finally waking up to the fact that no one person, even someone with a clipboard, could dictate the lives of everyone around them. As if the legal and community outrage weren't enough, life threw me one more twist. The gravel road that connected the HOA to the county road, the very path Karen had so cruelly improved by removing my combine, turned out to have a secret of its own. I had acquired that road through a quiet auction years ago, and it had always been classified as an agricultural service road. The HOA's right to use it was based on an easement that needed to be renewed every 5 years. And as luck, or perhaps poetic justice, would have it, that easement had expired. With a swift administrative move, I changed the signage, renaming it Tractorway. Suddenly, every delivery, every package, even every pizza order for the HOA had to reflect this new reality. The moment Karen's beloved community saw Tractorway on their mailboxes and street signs, the irony was undeniable and the fall of HOA Karen was complete. Throughout all of this, I never set out for revenge. I was simply doing what needed to be done, following the rules, protecting my livelihood, and ensuring that the state's operations remained undisturbed. Yet as I watched the neighborhood slowly come to grips with the consequences of one person's overreach, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because justice had been served, and sadness because it took all this chaos for people to realize that power, when misused, can lead to monumental downfall. In the quiet after the storm, with the last of the harvest completed and the echoes of controversy fading into the crisp autumn air, I often find myself reflecting on the absurdity of it all. Karen once believed that her small taste of authority would transform the neighborhood, but in her quest to enforce beauty and order, she ended up reminding everyone that there is a limit to how far one person can go when they start tampering with the systems that govern us all. And as I continue to tend to my fields, with Tractorway standing as a silent monument to that fateful harvest, I'm reminded that sometimes the best form of resistance is not confrontation but simply letting the natural order of things take its course. So, as the autumn winds whisper through the golden stalks of corn and the harvest moon rises to witness another season's end, I can't help but smile at the truth. The land has its own way of balancing order and chaos, and those who forget that lesson often find themselves outmatched by the very forces that once sought to control.